This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network, and we're brought to you by the Verdoliak Law Group, fighting insurance companies since 1963, and BetChicago.com, your source for all of Chicago's sports and betting news. Bears on Tap is brought to you by TixBlitz.com. The price you see is the price you pay plus shipping. Why? No service fees. TixBlitz.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere. TixBlitz.com.
Second and one. Can he get out of the backfield? Gurley cannot. Scott fires over the middle and it's intercepted at the 26-yard line. Roquan Smith, the rookie from Georgia, bounced out of bounds inside the 5. Throws, and that's almost intercepted. Wow. Simply a three-man rush. And Goff's going to go for it all. A jump on the end zone, picked off at the goal line. Drop begins in the 13. Gurley is going to be taken down for a loss. Back to the 3. Leonard Floyd tracking him down, and Gurley can't get on track tonight. Look out! Safety! Eddie Goldman comes through the middle to plant Goff in the end zone. 6 yards, Goff under pressure. The ball comes out. The ball is loose. Still loose. It was Khalil Mack who came in, and Goff has time. Fires, and that one is picked off. Kyle Fuller. Early. Great tackle. Knifing through is Danny Trevathan. Goff runs for his life. Backhand flip. Goff. Sacked. Man, that's an exclamation point if ever you've seen one. Goff, can the Rams stay alive? They can. Another interception. Move to Mara this time. 4 picks.
To the fans, baby! Yeah. How about that defense? That's an unbelievable team that we just played, and you always give respect. And we're growing. They're not always pretty. They're not always pretty, but we do it how? As we're completely growing, and I'm so proud to be a part of this family. Big Fangio! Yeah! Bears on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Cheers, Bears fans! This is Bears on Tap, and you just heard some of the defensive highlights from the Chicago Bears' thrilling win over the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday night. That was followed by some of the locker room comments made by head coach Matt Nagy. Our thanks to NFL.com, NBC Sports, and the great people over at ChicagoBears.com for the audio. Make sure you get over to the Bears website for lots of great stuff. My name is Aldo Gandia. Please excuse my scratchy voice. It's the price you pay as a fan when you're at Soldier Field and doing your role to cheer the team to victory. What a night of celebration we have for you here at the Bears Barroom Radio Network. My co-host, Pro Scout Danny Shimon, will join me shortly to provide his expert analysis of the game. We'll have comments from players and head coach Matt Nagy. And if you're listening live on Mixler.com, we'll be followed by Bears Are Live with Draft Dr. Phil. His special guest is Barroom pal Paige DeMacos. Can't wait to hear her thoughts on the Bears. Joe Mandel will moderate. And then later, In that show, Phil will be joined by Michael Halatek, who along with Draft Dr. Phil will announce the winner of the Tix Blitz Jingle Contest. Pretty cool stuff. Let us begin, as always, here on Bears on Tap with my opening thought. The Los Angeles Rams came into Sunday night's game as the consensus best team in the NFL. The best record, the best young head coach, the best offense in the NFL, the best running back, the most talent on the defensive line, the best defensive player in Aaron Donald, the overall best roster in the NFL. That's what the majority of football pundits were saying, and they have been saying it for weeks. But what I saw Sunday night at Soldier Field was different. I saw a Chicago Bears team that was clearly the better of the two teams. I saw Matt Nagy do the better coaching job. I saw Jordan Howard outplay Todd Gurley. I saw a Bears front seven that is clearly the best in the NFL with multiple Pro Bowlers, more than the Rams, that's for sure. I saw a defensive backfield that could be the best in Chicago Bears history by the time their run together is up. I saw a better roster wearing navy blue than the roster that was turning blue because of the cold. I saw the Chicago Bears stake a claim as one of the league's premier football teams. Unfortunately, I did not see in Mitchell Trubisky a championship quarterback, and we can excuse his pathetic performance to rust, maybe the after effects of a shoulder not 100% healed, to a quarterback still learning to be a winner, to any number of other excuses. But what I'm left with here is hope. Hope that Mitch can get going and be the necessary quarterback for the Bears to fulfill their promise. And it's a promise we have not heard in Chicago for a long time. That promise is that the Chicago Bears are good enough to win the Super Bowl. Let me bring in my co-host, Danny Shimon. Danny, how are you?
Aldo, man, how are you today? I'm doing great after this tremendous Bears victory. I couldn't wait to get to tonight. I mean, after last night, I was like, man, I wish we were doing Bears on Tap last night because I was so pumped up, so excited about what we saw. So that's a dominant performance by this Bears defense. I just couldn't wait to get with you and talk with you about it, and also obviously our Barflies as well. So
I wanted to call you at 2 o'clock in the morning when I got home and say, hey, let's
Should have. I probably wouldn't be able to make what you were saying because you're probably hammering off your head. But you should have called me, man, because I was up, man. I was still pumped from this victory. What just a dominant performance. And you just made a very good point that it didn't occur to me right now until you just said it. But if you think about it, the Rams are heralded as the top team in the NFC. But if you go roster, a position by position on each roster, there's a handful of spots that I would take the Rams players over the Bears players. And that's a very, very good point.
I think that you look at the defensive backfield of the Bears, you look at the linebacker position, and you look at even the defensive line position. Now, Aaron Donald, I think right now is going to be the NFC Defensive Player of the Year, and he deserves that. If the season were to stop now, I would say he deserves that. But as a whole, I would take the Bears defensive line. So I would take the entire the Bears defensive team over the Chicago Bears. And then there's a number of elements on the Bears offense that I would consider taking over the Rams. Todd Gurley, I think, is the best back in the league. So I'm not going to take him over, I'm not going to take Jordan Howard over Gurley. Right. But on the offensive line, there are pieces there. I think we have much more depth at wide receiver than the Rams. And I think Matt Nagy is either as good as the Rams coach or getting better.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, defensively, I think you nailed it on the spot. I think Aaron Donald is really the only guy that I would see playing on this Bears defense. And in terms of offensively, Andrew Whitworth, I know he's up in age, but he's still a pretty good left tackle. I could probably take him over Charles Leno if you're talking about a game today. And then, like I said, obviously Gurley, right? And then Brandon Cooks, he's a bit of a smaller side receiver, but he's still got the speed. He's got some big play potential. So. And Robert Woods is also a solid receiver. But, yeah, overall, as a unit, I think the Bears have more depth. It doesn't, doesn't help that they lost Cooper Kupp. They're specialists in terms of their slot receiver. But as of since today, I mean, yeah, it just goes to show you that the job that Ryan Pace has done at accumulating talent on this roster to making this team not only a viable playoff team, but also a viable, division winner, even a challenger for NFC supremacy. So, hats off, kudos to Ryan Pace. You and I have been having saying this all year. That this team is getting better, and they're still young, and they're just continuing to develop and get better each and every week. And then yesterday, I just believe yesterday that the defense came out to make a statement. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what they dominated from the beginning, from the kickoff to the end of the game. That the Bears defense, they just dominated that game last night.
It really did. And let's listen to Akeem Hicks talk in the locker room. This is just about a minute after their celebration, their club dub celebration. So he's out of breath here. But listen to his thoughts about his defense.
It was a dominant performance. Excuse me, because I'm still kind of hyped up from all the celebration. It was a big game for us because it was a really good team coming into our field, and Nagy has preached to us all year about protecting our field, and I think that's what we've done this year.
Mm-hmm. Just the idea that you could rise to the occasion coming up from the last game and being a big game. What does that say about just the way you play, the way you're being coached, everything?
I think that if anything, that propelled us forward even more because we know what type of team we are. And we didn't anticipate losing that game. So coming into this week, we put a lot more in the tank. Let's put it that way.
Did you think you could hold them to 6?
You never know how things are going to shake out. But do we play dominant defense? And do we feel like we should be respected and feared by most of the league? Yes.
Pretty impressive guy, pretty impressive defense. I love the confidence. I love the attitude of bouncing back after that performance against the Giants, which is not, certainly the Bears defense was accountable for that second half, but the offense certainly didn't help the Bears defense in that game. But, Akeem Hicks is a special player, man. Right.
And he's a leader on that team. So, he speaks for a majority of those players on that defense. They all follow him and Khalil Mack, and what he says, a lot of those guys follow and they kind of go there and back it up. So when he says we came out here to make a statement to dominate, that's exactly what they did. I mean, if I told you going into this game, Aldo, that the Bears would hold a top 5 Rams defense who coming into the game was averaging well over 400 yards a game to only 214 yards total, and hold Todd Gurley to 11 carries for 28 yards. On top of that, Aaron Donald would only have 1 quarterback hit and 2 tackles, and Trubisky would throw 3 interceptions, and then the Bears would win this game. You'd probably think I'm crazy, but that's exactly what happened. They literally just stomped the Rams offense, this high-powered juggernaut that it was being heralded as. Vic Fangio totally outcoached Sean McVay, out-schemed them and everything, and they were just a better team, period, last night on Soldier Field.
Interesting that Sean McVay is getting criticized for a lot of the same reasons Matt Nagy was criticized earlier, and not using Todd Gurley enough. And the criticism was centered around Gurley only getting 11 rushes. But the fact of the matter is that Gurley's first half touches were yielding nothing. There were a number of rushes that were negative yards, and so you can sort of understand a little bit why they got away from it. And given that they have so many other weapons on the team, now I probably would have stuck with Gurley a little bit more because I think he's a special player. But at the same time, that Bears run defense was on fire.
Right. They were gang tackling Gurley. You never saw just one guy really take him on. He was like one guy would hold him, and you see 2-3 guys coming from all over to take him down. What they did was the linebackers, the second and third levels of defense, did a great job of coming in and filling in their run fits. So the Rams, what they do is they're a zone blocking scheme. So basically they flow to one side and allow Gurley to cut back, give him a cutback lane to plant his foot and cut back and hit the backside of the flow, the offensive flow, if you will. But the Bears, they were disciplined. They were coming downhill. Like I said, the linebackers and even the safeties were coming downhill. They knew their gap responsibility. Okay, they played sound technique, and they filled those gaps. And Gurley had nowhere to cut back. He had no cutback lane really to get back and to bring up up into the open field and go on those long runs that a lot of us are accustomed to him seeing doing every Sunday. So just attacking, aggressive, disciplined defense, and they were just gang tackling him. He had no chance whatsoever in terms of breaking one upfield. I think his longest run was like 12 or 15 yards. I don't think he had anything longer than that.
And it was late in the game when he got that. One of the things that Fangio preached against Saquon Barkley was swarming the ball carrier, tackling with 11 guys, and it seemed like that didn't really totally sink in until they faced Todd Gurley. And after the game, Fangio was getting so much praise from his head coach and from fellow players. This is Eddie Jackson talking about the evil genius Vic Fangio, and I'm also going to let it roll for the entire minute and a half that he met with the media and to answer questions. I think a lot of what he says here is fascinating.
I've heard a lot of credit to Coach Fangio for this one. You call him an evil genius. What is it about him that makes him so good?
He's a student of the game, man. He's on top of everything, from A to Z, man. And he does a great job putting us in position to make plays and play to our strengths. And I wouldn't want to play for any D coordinator besides Coach Vic.
And how good does it feel to put a performance like that, Sunday Night Football, against one of the best offenses in the league?
It feels great, man. It does. It really does. And like I said, shout out to our fans, man. It was unbelievable tonight. We came out, we played aggressive, we played our game. We prepared very well during the week, and it obviously showed tonight.
So did you hear those air raid sirens before just about every defensive play tonight?
Oh, no, man. The fans were so loud. We really didn't hear them, man. Somebody asked me that. I really didn't hear them for real. Yes.
How about the hands on Bradley?
Oh, man. It was unbelievable. We were so happy. Bradley's one of the most athletic big guys I ever seen. And for him to go up and high point the ball like that with his hands, not a body catch, it's unbelievable, man. And I'm just glad he scored a touchdown because we've been waiting for it.
What do you think of Coach Nagy's play calling? It's the fans seem to love it. There's always a little something different in there.
Man, Coach Nagy's a different dude, man. He always say let it hang, be ourselves, and we're gonna be aggressive. Have that aggressive mindset, and he leads by example. He shows us that, man, we're gonna be aggressive, and I'm gonna live up to what I speak. So we loving it right now. We really are.
Who came up with the wedding bouquet celebration?
Prince. Prince came up with it. We didn't execute it very well, so we might try it again, but Prince came up with that. Yeah.
A lot to unravel there, Danny. I know you're a scout, and so you probably don't look at the tape of touchdown celebrations and stuff like that. But that wedding bouquet thing, and everything.
Who caught it? Was it Bilal Nichols caught it? Or was it Bullard?
I think it was Bilal Nichols, but I'm not quite sure because, frankly, I didn't even see it when I was there. I just saw a replay from it, and the angle that I saw was obscured, so I don't know who. But he said that it was kind of messed up, so I wonder if Prince overthrew it. Maybe somebody in the chat room can let us know what they know about it. But these celebrations are part of the DNA of this team. Those kinds of things, I think, are helping a team. Now, you've been around players, you've played the game, you've scouted the game, you've been in locker rooms and so forth. What can you tell me about that type of camaraderie that is developed with players and how that impacts positively a team?
It just builds, like you said, camaraderie within the unit, within the team. They play for one another. They like playing with each other. It obviously all starts from the top. It starts with head coach, and he allows them to he preaches them to have fun, to be you. As he says on his play card there, he wants them to show that their creativity, in these celebrations. And what it does is it extends out to the fans. The fans love it. The fans embrace it, and it becomes, they become more likable. They become a team that everyone is easy to cheer for, to root for, to love. And besides the play on the field, you're always willing, like, all right, if they get an interception or if they get a turnover, are they going to run it back? If they run it back, all right, what's the celebration going to be this week? And it looks like Prince Amukamara is the guy, that come up with all these different ideas. So he looks like he's the spearhead behind all the celebrations here. But real quick, I just want to get back to Fangio.
Sure.
What he did well, or what he does well, is he's not a guy who relies a lot on blitzing and bringing more men than you can block. He's a guy who loves to drop 8 guys back and use his front 4 or his front 5 guys to pressure the quarterback. So when he blitzes, he chooses spots when to blitz. That's why I think he's so effective. When he can blitz, he can send a blitz off the corner. He can send safety. He can send a linebacker. He can send a additional rusher, rushing lineman who's lined up as a linebacker. For example, Leonard Floyd. So that's what he does to disguise and to confuse these quarterbacks at the line of scrimmage. Now, honestly, I think Jared Goff was beaten, before the game started. I tweeted out, this guy's a Southern California kid. I think the temperature, the cold. I mean, I'm not saying that's the reason they lost, but I think he was affected by the cold. But anyway, but what Fangio did was he lined up guys and brought guys from different parts of the defense, from the second level, third level, so on and so forth. So, and it does it week after week in and week out. And that's what makes it so difficult for these guys to get a gauge on what the Bears are doing, these quarterbacks, these offensive coordinators, because of the way he disguises it. And like I said, when he brings pressure, he brings it at a time where some may not even expect it to come, and might not even expect it to come from a certain angle or from a certain position. So, he did a phenomenal job last night of coordinating this defense. If you notice, the Bears secondary, they did a lot of they kept a lot of the plays in front of them, right? So, they were not going to get beaten deep. If the Rams were going to, catch balls, they're going to catch it in front of them, and they were going to swarm, come downhill, and secure the tackle. And then so they held the Rams to a lot of, 5, 6, 7, 8 yard gains. The one thing you could see that he preached to them, they were not going to get beaten deep for those deep, touchdowns. So they did a great job again, swarming to the ball. It's something that Fangio preaches, something that we've seen in previous stints with the 49ers, using his front four to create pressure and then allowing his back half of the defense to come in and swarm the ball.
Chris Armstrong tells us it was Jonathan Bullard who got the bouquet, and she also says that she likes Vic Fangio, but that he doesn't play to win. And so I think what she's meaning by that is just what you were touching on, and that she has always preached in her columns that you can read at bearsborrowroom.com. She always wants Fangio to display more of an aggressive nature with his play calling. But at the same, and I agree with that. I come from the Buddy Ryan school of defense, where Buddy would send everybody except his mother in to rush the quarterback. But
if she could run, he'd probably send her too.
Yeah, really. But at the same time, I respect the philosophy that Fangio has, and sometimes it frustrates me. But last night it worked to a T, and they were getting a pass rush in with just 4 men for many plays, and even sometimes with just a 3-man rush, they were able to disrupt Goff's timing. So it worked last night, and I think you make a good point too about Jared Goff being that Southern California kid. That whether it was also the 12th man and the fans were the 13th man, it was all inside his head.
Right. And the thing about Fangio is, again, he likes to bring pressure, but he likes to bring pressure with his front four. Now, if he has to bring pressure, if the front four is not getting to the quarterback and the quarterback has all the way to throw, he will send linebackers. He will send a corner blitz. He'll send Bryce Callahan off the edge or a corner off the edge. He will blitz. But the only thing is he doesn't like blitzing. He likes allowing these guys to keep everything in front of them and gang tackle, if you will. The one thing I have an issue with Fangio is when he drops Khalil Mack into coverage.
Yeah.
Khalil Mack is a great player, a great athlete, and but seeing him lined up one-on-one against Todd Gurley yesterday, I mean, that's not a fair, it's not a fair way to put, fair position to put Khalil Mack, one-on-one against Todd Gurley. I mean, he's going to lose that, majority of the time. So, let him do what he does best. That's Khalil Mack. Let him rush the passer, but. He has a reason why he does that, because he thinks that allows the quarterback, that kind of plays mind games with the quarterback, and you're expecting Mac to rush and he drops back and then he gets into the passing lane, so on and so forth. So, but some of the things that he does that I'm kind of like not 100% with, but you cannot question the man's pedigree and his success in the league as a defensive coordinator. I mean, he's made this defense into like we see right now a top 5, top 3 unit in the NFL.
There was one play on a three-man rush where all three rushers, and Mack was one of them, didn't really rush the quarterback. They just kind of played a zone to stop him from leaving the pocket. And there was Mack, this prolific pass rusher, just kind of standing around, staying in a zone type of pass rush. And I was kind of shaking my head saying, well, is that really the best use of this guy's talent, to have him be a stopgap from stopping the Goff from rolling up, but on that particular play, we got an interception.
Right, exactly. Because I was going to say the three guys are rushing, but there's 8 guys back there.
Exactly.
With only 4 or 5, Rams guys back there. So yeah. That's the key to his defense. And the one thing I thought you were going to mention with when last night they rushed 3, and Mack literally got hit by 3 guys. I think the running back chipped him, the tight end, and a tackle. They're all looking to block guys, and all 3 of them went just straight to Mack. So that was kind of a funny sequence there.
Yeah, Hubarkish on, I think it's the score he works on. I was listening to him a little bit on the way to the game, and he was talking about Khalil Mack's productivity being different, being off from where he started the season, and was saying perhaps the ankle is still an issue. I don't think it's necessarily that. It may be. We don't know. But I do think that it's simply because Mack is just being game planned for much more since he's returned back from injury. The people have been, it takes coaches a little while, 2 or 3 games to compile the tape, and they knew, hey, despite the fact that these guys have Leonard Floyd, Akeem Hicks, and these emerging young pass rushers, we still have to put 2 or 3 guys on Mack, and so I think that's why we're not seeing the numbers that Khalil had in his first 5 games at the Bears. I want to play this clip of Matt Nagy talking about how they put the clamps on Todd Gurley. Take a listen to this and then comment on it.
The one thing with Gurley is that a lot of these mid zones and outside zones, there's a cutback. He cuts back, and I thought we did a good job of containing it. He had 1 or 2 where he cut back a little bit, but we were there in groups. It was gang tackling. It was guys. I felt like we were playing fast. I felt that the whole entire game, and then watching it on tape, you saw that. But you have to, and you saw the one play. You see how good of a player that Todd is Leonard had him dead in the rights in the flat, and he broke a tackle from a big dude in Leonard, and still made a nice play. So it's not easy to do, and that's a heck of an offense.
They are indeed a heck of an offense. What do you think about what he just said there?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said earlier. Basically, that the linebackers, what they did was they came up and they played disciplined gap, defense where they filled their run fits, and they did not give him that cutback lane to go ahead and bust up through, for those big yards. And the Rams came in as a team that heavily relied and used the play action, because what that did was that brought up the linebackers, and then that kind of got them out of position, and then Goff would just basically bludgeon him or hit him over the top, and that level between the linebackers and the secondary, that level in between there, he would, get the receivers opening and get passes. But with the linebackers the Bears have, even if they did take a step forward, they are quick enough and fast enough to retreat back and still get into position to affect his passing lane, which is a component that happened last night as well. So that was a key aspect that the Rams used on offense that the Bears took away because of the speed and athleticism that Roquan Smith and Trevathan and even Leonard Floyd have at the linebacker position. So that was a key there as well. But yeah, I mean, what Nagy said is exactly what I said earlier. These guys, the Rams are zone blocking scheme. They like to flow the defensive lineman and the play flow one way, and then give the running back a cut back lane where he plants his foot and he sees his crease and he cuts back and hits that crease up the field. And the Bears, again, they're playing, when linebackers need to scrape over, they scraped over. When linebackers needed to come up, or even safeties needed to come up and fill that gap, fill that hole, they played disciplined gap defense, sound defense, and their run fits were excellent. And like I said, if one guy got them, then sure enough, you saw 2, 3, 4 guys come on top of them. They wanted to make sure they'd stop Todd Gurley. And once you stop Todd Gurley, you pretty much stop the Rams offense.
Did Roquan Smith have his best game of the season? I thought he did.
I mean, he's had some great games. I mean, if he had his best game of the season, it was up there. I mean, he had a terrific game. Again, he was sideline to sideline, you see this kid, and I keep preaching it every week. This guy's just getting better and better and better. Imagine if this kid had an actual full training camp. So this guy's, still just learning and getting better and better. And I expect him to take an even bigger jump next year, when in the second season in his defense. So again, he's all over the place. I didn't see any missed tackles yesterday, so that's something that I know he needed to clean up a little bit in his game. So he was a bit more of a short tackler yesterday, but again, he was a guy, anything that was in front of him, anything that was to the side, he was chasing down, he was coming downhill and attacking, wrapping up. I think he was only credited with, I believe, 6 tackles, and I think one pass defense. So the stats don't sometimes bear exactly the impact the player had on the game, but I could tell right now, like I just said right now earlier, that his ability, his athleticism to be able to take a step in for a play action, but still drop back and still get back into those passing lanes and disrupt the quarterback's vision and not allow him to complete passes, between that second and third level of defense is key that him and Trevathan offer this Bears defense.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why I thought it was his best game is because I didn't detect any mistakes. I didn't detect, him looking into the backfield and allowing a pass receiver to get a step on him. I didn't detect any missed tackles. I just thought it was a flawless game. And as you said, the numbers don't necessarily dictate what kind of a performance a guy has. But I was truly in awe of what I saw from Roquan Smith yesterday.
I think the Bears came in yesterday. The Bears defense came in and said, everyone's scared and is in awe of this offense. They should be scared of us, and we're out here to show you why they should be scared of us. And I think none of them were fearful or had no no worries about. I mean, they respected them. Don't get me wrong. They're top 5 offense, averaging over, like I said earlier, over 400 yards per game. But none of those players on defense had any sort of fear that they were going to get bludgeoned or anything like that offensively. I mean, the key. The key tempo setter, if you will, was that first interception by Trubisky. The Rams brought it all the way back into, inside the 10-yard line possibly, and the Bears held them to a field goal right there. So you know what, you're not going to get anything from past us. We're going to stop you guys, and that right there, that was a tone setter right there. First turnover, first really offensive series for the Rams. They set a tone and said, you guys, you're not gonna do this here today. So, and sure enough, they didn't do it.
I want to remind our listeners that we're going to go to about 8 o'clock or maybe a little afterwards, and then at 9 p.m. Central, it will be Bears Hour Live with Draft Dr. Phil here. He's going to have Paige DeMacos, the fantasy football guru, the Chicago Bears fan who lives and works out of Arizona, and Michael Halatek of Tix Blitz will join us. Where there, Michael and Phil will announce the winner of the Tix Blitz Jingo contest. Danny, you didn't enter the Jingo contest. How come?
I was told I'm ineligible.
Oh man, who told you that? You're definitely eligible.
You did.
Oh, maybe it was me. I never read the rules on these things.
No, plus, like I said, I'm not a singer. I'll leave the singing to Phil. He's a professional singer on this team.
Well, Phil is one of the 3 judges, and we went through the judging today, so it's going to be interesting to see the announcement. And I think they're going to play all of the major entries of the finalists, and so that should be fun. So it's going to be an extra long Bears Hour Live. Lots of football talk with Phil, Joe Mandel, Paige DeMacos, and then Michael Halatek of Tix Blitz will come in, and we'll have some fun with the announcement of the winner. All right, I want to now talk about the offense.
Do we have to?
Yeah, I guess we do. I mean, I would really, I wouldn't mind just discussing the defense for the entire 1-hour show. If you want to do that, that's fine by me.
No, I mean, we can talk about the offense. I mean, it wasn't the greatest display of offensive capabilities of what the Bears have, but there were some bright spots on offense, believe it or not. So one of them obviously is Jordan Howard. His first 100-yard game of the season. So there's 19 carries for 101 yards. I mean, he was constantly churning out. I think he averaged about 5 yards a carry. So he was constantly, churning out positive yardage, which is what Nagy had said had deterred him from continuing, to use the run game in previous games, is because a lot of times, he was stopped behind the line of scrimmage or for a loss, or at the line of scrimmage, and I should say, or for a loss. And a lot of times that put the offense behind the chains so that he would have to revert to the passing game. Well, yesterday, facing a duo inside of Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, the Bears' offensive line, namely the trio of James Daniels, Cody Whitehair, and Brian Witzman, did a phenomenal job of not only creating creases and seams for Howard to get up a field and attack downhill to get those yardage, but also did a great job, we mentioned earlier, of neutralizing the pass rush or the effectiveness of Aaron Donald and Suh, if you will. So I'm always on Witzman. I always give him a flack in terms of, I've seen him technique-wise. Sometimes I don't like what he does. I don't like his strength at the point of attack. I've seen him get stood up by linebackers. But yesterday, I even tweeted out. I said, a hat tip. Give credit where credit's due. Witzman did a nice job on that big Cohen run. I think it was for 32 yards. He did a nice job of sealing his man, creating a crease, and sustaining his block, not allowing his man to shed him and go and make the tackle. That gave a little opening there for Cohen to run 32 yards. So I think that trio specifically of Daniels, Whitehair, and Witzman did a nice job on the offensive line to give Jordan Howard the room to go ahead and make the positive yardage and to allow the Bears to establish this running game that I and you have been asking for these past few weeks or so. But hopefully this is a start of something good, that this is something that it's a pattern that Coach Nagy will start using in terms of utilizing Jordan Howard, utilizing the running game to take pressure off of Mitchell Trubisky, who obviously wasn't having a good game coming off of 2 weeks of not playing. So that to me was a big positive on offense.
Matt Nagy gave a lot of credit to Harry Houston after the game yesterday in his press conference and said that Harry worked extra long with the offensive linemen to get them to make some changes with their blocking schemes because there was extra attention paid to Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh in the middle of that Rams line and so forth, and so adjustments had to be made. And I am totally with you that Witzman had a game, or maybe now we'll stop making fun of him and calling him Withman if he can continue that progress, because it was an impressive game for him.
Yes, it was. It was by far his best game as a Bear. I mean, from the limited time he's been playing here since Kyle Long got hurt. I mean, he's been inserted as a starter. He's like I said, he's had some struggles. So by yesterday or last night was his best game as a Bear, and definitely saw him. Like I said earlier, creating holes, creating creases, sustaining his blocks. Being effective at the point of attack. Creating leverage, so things like that you need the offensive line, especially a guard, to do in the run game. So and he did that last night.
Yeah, and the truth about Witzman is that he played fairly well last year as left guard for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think maybe part of the problem was moving over the right guard, and he was just having some issues. And let's not forget that he came in the middle of the season, didn't have a preseason with the team. I guess he was with the Lions during part of the preseason, and they dropped him. So he had a pretty rough go during preseason and so forth. So hopefully he's settling in. Maybe he's a cold weather player. So it's
well, a lot of my things with him were just fundamentals. Being able to sustain your block at the point of attack. Being able to get low in your and bend your knees and not use your waist to bend. Stuff like that. Fundamentals is what I was really not approving of the way he was playing. Obviously, you take a step down when you lose a Kyle Long, you're bringing a backup, a guy who just, was released and was basically sitting at home doing nothing for a couple of weeks. You picked him up, and then, lo and behold, now he's your starter. So, there is going to be a transition, and maybe you're right. Moving from a left side to the right side is a transition. It's not an easy thing to do, and if you haven't done it before, especially if he's if he's right-handed dominant or left-handed dominant, so on and so forth. It all depends, So maybe that was it. Maybe this is the start of like we said with Nagy and continue with the running game. Maybe this is the start of something good for Brian Witzman as well, because God knows that we need that running game, and that we need that solid foundation in the middle of that offensive line to create that leverage at the point of attack and to open up holes for Cohen and Howard. If the Bears can add a solid rushing attack to their already diverse passing game, I'm just going to say look out. I mean, I don't know how teams are going to try and stop them.
CB Fan gives a shout out to Tariq Cohen for him picking up blitzes. I thought both running backs did an excellent job blocking, and Chris Armstrong.
Terrific job. I mean, do you see the one that Tariq Cohen, basically he stood up Dante Fowler?
I was just going to read that from Chris Armstrong. She says Cohen blocked Fowler and stoned him dead. So, yeah.
I think he might have flexed afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. I got to go back and see tape, but I thought he flexed at Fowler afterwards, too.
I got to go back and watch that, too. All right, we've got to talk about the 10,000-pound elephant in the room, and that's the play of Mitch Trubisky. You know, it's interesting that every time Trubisky has a poor game, Nagy really goes out of his way to protect
defend him.
Yeah. Yes, and so he did it again last night. He did it again today. This is almost Nagy taking blame for Nagy's performance, saying that he's got to make some different changes in his play calling. Let's listen to a little bit of what the coach said about Trubisky's play and how he took responsibility for Trubisky's mistakes.
But there's so many different variables that go into the offensive play, each play. You take that now and you take it into our defense in a game like that. I need to do my job of making sure, regardless of who the quarterback is, knowing the situation, that we don't put our defense, as good as they were playing, that we don't put them in a bad position. And early in the game, they had that pick down inside the red zone. That's the things we can't do. And I thought, if we stayed away from those, that we would have a great chance to win.
How do you describe the...
Oh, Matt, you sound like a parent that doesn't want anybody to criticize their child. You know, the fact of the matter, yeah, maybe there's some play calls that should not have been called, that could have been safer, more runs perhaps, Matt Nagy, but the problem was Trubisky's mechanics and the ball was sailing on him and maybe his shoulder was still hurting. What do you think?
Well, that's the thing is, like, when the game started and he threw that first interception, I'm like, all right, maybe he was amped up, he was jacked up, he hadn't played in 2 weeks, he was excited, primetime game came out, and it just overthrew the ball. But if you notice, all his interceptions were overthrows. So that tells me either A, he's out of sync mechanically, meaning his footwork, he's overstriding or he's not striding or whatnot. Or he's overcompensating for his arm, and he's either throwing it from a different arm angle or whatnot. I haven't had a chance to go back and see the tape yet, so I'm just watching the tape or the TV copy of it. It didn't look like he was doing anything different delivery wise, just to overcompensate for an injury. Other than the fact when he was trying to throw those quick bubble screen passes, he was kind of doing a sidearm thing, but he does that all the time anyway. So it's not like something that caught my eye as something different. So. Question is, was it rust? Was it still the effects of the injury? Was it just him still developing? The one thing that concerned me, though, Aldo, was he went back to being the one read guy. He'd gone away from that early on in the season. If he'd go back, if his primary guy was open, he'd give him the ball. Fine, no problem. But if he had to sit back in the pocket and scan and look for second or third, fourth options, he had trouble. And I don't know if it's because they kind of told him don't run as much. Now I know the first couple of plays in the first series, he scrambled, got first downs, and didn't seem like it. He really bothered him, or he even thought second of it. But maybe he was told, let's try and protect yourself, try and limit your runs, and that kind of threw him off. I'm not sure. It was a little bit disconcerting to see his performance, especially on a primetime stage like that. But I'm willing to chalk it up to just nerves, rust, being rusty, being out for 2 weeks, and the one good thing though, and the first half was horrible, but then I always have confidence that Nagy, what he does is he adjusts at halftime, and he'll call plays. He'll put Trubisky in positions to succeed, to get into rhythm. Because that first half, he looked like he was out of sync and just indecisive. Second half was a little bit better. Okay. And then, but that's because I trust Nagy to get him into position with his play calls to get into rhythm, to be able to complete a couple of short passes here and there, and next thing you know he's flinging it downfield. So I think he got a little bit more comfortable as the second half went, but then again he threw that third interception, which was another bad overthrow. So well, I'm willing to chalk it up to just being, rusty and just being, maybe there's some lingering effect to that shoulder. Remember, my understanding, it was a deep bruise in that shoulder that was hurting him. But yesterday, you were at the game, but yesterday Michelle Tafoya reported that Trubisky told her it was a slight separation in the shoulder. Okay, however, that he had no pain and he was pain-free. But he hadn't thrown the ball initially when he got hurt. He hadn't thrown a ball for a period of time. I want to say 7 to 10 days or something like that. So, not throwing the ball for that long, maybe just getting back into a rhythm, getting your footwork down could have been some of the results of the interceptions. So let's see another week of practice, and then taking on the Packers, a team that's already played, he's familiar with in terms of what they do defensively. To see how that comes up this weekend.
Yeah, I heard that Michelle Tafoya did report that the injury to the shoulder could have been a slight dislocation, and that's serious stuff.
Right.
So if he really did suffer that, and Michelle Tafoya is a top-notch reporter, she's not going to make that up.
Right.
Then that's something that we really need to be cautious with, and the whole Matt Nagy was criticized a lot, even on our network. Draft Dr. Phil was saying that, Trubisky should have started. Well, come on, we don't know the extent of the injury.
Exactly. We don't. We can just go by what we can find out and what we're told, basically. But if it is a slight dislocation or a slight separation, like you said, that's a serious injury. I mean, when I heard that, my ears perked up. I'm like, whoa, okay. And this guy's playing after 2 weeks, and maybe he should be sitting out this game as well. So because this kid, this is the future of your franchise here, and it's his throwing shoulder. It's not his opposite left shoulder. It's his throwing shoulder. You ruin that throwing arm. You can really set this kid back, not only for his time here in Chicago, but for his career overall in the NFL. So you want to be very, very careful with it. And I'm to the Bears' credit, I think, I don't think they would put him in a position to, if it was, as bad as they reported it was. I don't think they would put him out there if he wasn't 100% or, at least I would say 97, 96%, healthy. So, and like I said, the first couple of plays in that first series, he took off, ran, didn't look like, he had any worries and he was carefree in terms of running. But then you notice later on in the game, I don't know if they told him on the sideline, hey, man, just keep it easy, get down. A couple of times he had the ability to run up and, go into traffic, if you will, and gain a couple more yards. And he decided to kick it out and maybe run out of bounds a little bit to play it safe. Or a couple of times he took an early dive and just got down real quick. So I think as the game wore on, I think he started, maybe was told to, ease up on the running. And then, that's when he's being kind of, held to, like, in the pocket and say, all right, do most of your work from the pocket. I think that's when it kind of boggles down for him and he gets a little discombobulated and a little indecisive. But hopefully, like I said, it's not a major injury, and hopefully he is fully healed, and we'll just see him continue to progress as the season goes on.
As you mentioned earlier, the highlight of the offense was Jordan Howard, and but there was another really interesting thing that happened with the offense yesterday, and that was Santa Slay. You want to take us through that play, Danny?
Yeah, I started Akeem Hicks as a running back in my fantasy league, and I lost my playoff game because I had Akeem Hicks as a running back, and I thought I was going to get a touchdown there, but no. Yeah. So that was interesting. So when the game, I'm trying the games, I'm trying the plays, and they come out of the huddle or whatnot, and they say, oh, Akeem Hicks is in. All right, Akeem Hicks is in it. And then I'm like, wait, who are those big guys in front of him? And next thing you know, I was like, I think it was, I forgot who was like, kind of like, they had like three guys, 4 total linemen in there, and 3 of them were up, like crouched right next to each other on the line. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, there's no way they're going to hand it to him, are they? And sure enough, what was key to that play, though, was Akeem Hicks selling the handoff, the fake. Yep. If you see the replay, I don't know if you had a chance to see it. I mean, yes. He like literally, like his eyes bulge out, like he's getting the ball, and he does the whole, running, the running back with his arms at the mesh point to go in and grab the ball. Right. And he does a great job of selling it. Yep. And I think even later on he comments that Nagy came up to him and said, "Hey man, great job of selling that run," because everyone thought he was going to get that ball, and lo and behold, Saul was wide open for the touchdown catch. But that touchdown celebration, though, I think he might want to talk to the defensive players there, but maybe get a better defensive celebration. I don't know about that dance. I know he said his daughter taught him how to do that, but I don't know. I don't know if that's a prime time appropriate, if you know what I mean.
Steven Zimmerman. Yeah, I hear you. I know exactly what you mean. Steven Zimmerman says that it was Bullard, Hicks, RPH, Roy Robertson Harris, and Bilal Nichols all in on offense. Now, this is what Nagy said about that play when he was asked about, how do you come up with these plays, these special, weird plays and so forth? What's the whole process that goes into it? This is what Nagy said.
Yeah, well, they're all different. We always talk about some of them are in the incubator for a while. They're in there for weeks, and you just got to either wait for the chance to come. This one just happened this past week, so it wasn't in the incubator too long, and we felt like the time was right, and that's just what the guys executed it just right. It was a great catch, great throw. It's good hard run cell, and I was impressed.
Yeah, I was impressed too.
So what Nagy's doing there, the incubator he calls it, right? So that's where he puts all these plays in, and he kind of just sit there until he wants to use them. So what he's doing there, he's telling opposing defensive coordinators, "Hey, I got plays here that I can bring out and spring out that you have not even seen yet on tape." So that's going to have all of these teams, the Bears' future opponents, you have their quality control coaches go back and take a look at the Bears roster now and see which of these players, these non-typical skill position players, have any sort of offensive, play, background. They play running back in high school, they play, tight end, they play receiver, to see if they can kind of say, all right, if we see 79 or pick another number, pick Bilal Nichols, Bilal Nichols lining up the tight end as ineligible. Does he have any sort of pass catching experience in a high school or grammar school or whatnot? He's setting it up for these guys now to start thinking about, all right, what's next? Who can you use next, and so on and so forth. So because Saul came out and said, he said that I'm tackle eligible, but he's done that before, right? But he's always stayed in the block as an extra tight end. Mm-hmm. No one expected the ball to go to him, so he's just throwing it out there. Hey guys, I got plays that you haven't seen yet. So a lot of these upcoming opponents are going to have, like I said, their quality control, their interns go and trying to fish up the Bears, roster and see, hey, has 98 ever played in the backfield? Has he ever caught a pass? Has he ever played offense? So on and so forth. So it's a great job of him just kind of throwing it out there.
Well, I wish I would have played the soundbite a little longer, because then another reporter asked that play successful because of what you did last week with Akeem, and that did you set up that play with installing the Akeem run last week, which is a great question. And Matt Nagy, I don't think he was totally honest when he said, no, I didn't do that. But you got to believe, because earlier in the season, he did kind of indicate that some of the trick plays that they were calling were setups for things later in the season. So it's interesting that Nagy is like what you said. He's really playing on these defensive coaches, and he has them thinking. And this is really important for a team that's having struggles scoring touchdowns with the offense. You got to manufacture it. You got to manufacture touchdowns. I don't care how it's done. You got to.
Not only that, but 2-point conversions too. So a lot of these plays will come into effect when they're trying to go for 2 or something like that. So goal line, 2-point conversions. A lot of times these kind of plays, or even the ones that they're not at the goal line, they're at the 15, 20-yard line. We've seen with the 2 quarterbacks in the backfield. We've seen with at one game we saw Eddie Jackson and Bryce Callen in the backfield as well. So just throwing these things out there, putting feelers out there or whatnot, so these guys can start looking at, all right, what are they going to do here? Who can they use here? If they do bring them in, does this guy have the ability to catch a ball? So on and so forth. So I think he's doing a great job of setting things up for future plays down the road.
All right, Danny, it is now officially Packer Week. And we need to talk about the Green Bay Packers because this is a huge game for a couple of reasons. Number one, depending on the results of the Vikings-Seahawks game, I don't even have it on, so I don't know what the score is at this present moment.
Seattle's winning 3-0.
Oh, good. Go Seattle. So the Bears could have an opportunity to clinch the division championship against the Green Bay Packers, but beyond that, this game has special significance in terms of what it means to the morale of this team and getting this monkey off the team's back of being the stepping stone for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers recently was quoted as saying, we've had a lot of success at Chicago, so we could still make a run, blah, blah, blah. He never fails to take an opportunity to take a little jab at the Chicago Bears and his success against the Bears. The Packers looked good yesterday in beating the Atlanta Falcons and their new interim head coach, Joe Philbin. This game is special for a lot of reasons, not just a natural rivalry, isn't it?
Exactly. And if I'm Nagy, I'm playing that clip of Aaron Rodgers saying, oh, we've had success going down there and winning before. Keep playing it over and over and over again because, this is a way, like you said, if Minnesota loses tonight, the Bears will have an opportunity at Soldier Field in front of their home fans to be able to clinch the NFC North division, beating their rival, the Green Bay Packers. What's a better way to rub it into Aaron Rodgers' nose or the Packers' nose, and by winning and celebrating, getting your division hats and your division T-shirts, there on the field in front of the Packers. So, and plus, I'm pretty sure they still have a bad taste in their mouth from that Week 1 loss. A game that if Kyle Fuller holds on to that interception, that they win basically, and so I think this is a way for them to possibly obviously if they win they secure a playoff spot, but possibly depending, like I said, on the result of tonight's Minnesota game, they could clinch a division, and they can also get revenge for that Week 1 loss against a rival, the Packers. So yes, this is a big week, and there will be. At that game, besides myself and a number of other barflies, there will be a barfly who is hoping to attend that game. That barfly took the time and the effort to join the Tix Blitz Jingle contest, and Michael Halatek, Draft Dr. Phil, and myself have looked at all the entries, and we have determined who is going to be the winner. I am going to announce that winner. No, actually, I'm not. It's going to be Draft Dr. Phil and Michael. I'm saying, I'm announcing it now. I'm like,
no, I should have played all three entries, but I think Phil's going to do that. Not entries, but the three finalists. Phil's going to do that in his show. He's got Paige DeMarcos as his guest, and after the interview, after Phil's rant, after the interview with Paige, then they will. Michael Halatek will come out from Tix Blitz to announce the winner, and so that person will be over at the Green Bay Packers game along with Michael, myself, Draft Dr. Phil. I think Bears Girl is going to be there.
Bears Girl coming too. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So, any final thoughts there, Mr. Danny Shimon?
Just like I said, we're all excited to see what the Bears did yesterday defensively, to be able to dominate, the Rams and basically just. Literally, they could have held them to just 3 points because that first field goal was the first interception by Trubisky that was returned deep into Bears territory. So, one key thing that wanted to point out though, Bryce Callahan left the game with a foot injury, and I think Nagy said today that they're still doing tests and they don't know the extent of the injury. That's a key loss. And that kid has been just balling this year, and he plays 82% of the time on the Bears defense. So that's a big piece. That's if he's out for an extended period of time, that the Bears will be missing. So, and another key thing was, when he left the game, Sherrick McManus came in and did a hell of a job playing
really well,
the nickel. So I think he had 7 tackles and a quarterback hit. So it shows you to the Bears' depth. But still, you do not want to lose, Callahan on your defense, and then you don't want to lose McManus on special teams either. So that's one key thing we want to keep an eye on this week, and hopefully it's not an extended period, extended injury, and Callahan will be back, next week or if not, the following week. But that's one key thing I want to leave you guys with is let's make sure Callahan is back healthy.
Yeah, there was a game earlier this season where Callahan had to leave late in the fourth quarter, or maybe early in the fourth quarter.
It was the Arizona game. I was there.
Yeah, and McManus came in and had a tremendous series of plays. It was like back to back to back where he had a sack.
He had the game-winning sack. He
basically
ended the game with a sack, yep.
And I think he had an interception. He had a pass defense, all back to back to back plays. So he has proven to be a capable backup, but I am totally with you if this injury to Bryce Callahan is serious. And every time Matt Nagy says a player is going in for further tests, you know that player is not going to play the next game or two, or maybe even more. So our prayers are with Bryce Callahan. We'd love to see him out in Green Bay, but if it's just going to take a game or two to get him back to 100%, then we will deal with that. Now, let me remind people about the Green Bay Packers game. There will be a tailgate event that we'll be holding, and we'll have details on that. Hopefully some of the Barflies who are attending the game can stop by the tailgate event and have a beer with us, or a hot cocoa, or whatever your drink of preference is at 9 a.m. in the morning, and then head over to the Bears game. As I mentioned earlier, Bears Hour Live with Draft Dr. Phil is coming up next, and Michael Halatek and Phil will announce the winner of the Tick Splits Jingle. Paige Demacos is going to be on. She is, of course, a fantasy football expert and also a die-hard Chicago Bears fan who lives out in Arizona, so that's going to be an interesting conversation. Of course, Draft Dr. Phil is going to have a rant. I imagine that's going to be a really positive rant, and one that we don't want to miss. Bears 100 Proof will hit your podcast stream on Wednesday. The Fantasy Football Goon Show comes out Wednesday or Thursday. Let's Talk It Out with Trey Busy is Thursday live here on Mixlr, and then Mike North Advantage on Friday. And then, of course, we got to talk about, I got to talk to the guys about the Barfly Tailgate show, because I won't be around to engineer that show, so we might have to do it on Saturday, or somebody has to step in and take my place. Anyway, we have a full week of programming for you here. Oh, I forgot to mention Buffon 55 Wednesday night. Buffon 55 Wednesday night. So we've got a full week of radio network programs. Danny Shimon, I love doing this show with you. It's always fun. I always learn. I love your passion and love for the Chicago Bears. You want to do a shout out for anybody? Your mom, dad, loved ones?
Just I want to give a shout out, just like Matt Nagy did yesterday. And although you were there, the fans yesterday were awesome. I mean, I was at home and I was watching, and I can hear the fans. When the defense was on the field, bring the noise, bring the energy, keep it up. Although obviously you were there, you can speak better to it than I can. But keep it up. The Bears are going to need you. This is an exciting defense, as they proved to you yesterday. Every time they're on the field, let's make that noise. Let's make it even harder for the offensive offense going up, opposite our defense. Make it harder for them, because at one point yesterday, one of the offensive linemen looked at Jared Goff and they caught it on TV and he said, "I can't hear you." So that's a key, guys.
Exactly.
So hats off, shout out to all the Bears fans, Barflies are out there yesterday making that noise. Keep it up. Did a great job. Let's keep bringing the noise, keep bringing that heat, and keep supporting the Bears.
And I will say this also, there's going to be a lot of Packer fans there, as they usually are for a game in Chicago. They love to come to Chicago, and I love having them come to Chicago and spending their money at our shops and helping our economy. And so treat them well, but always protect yourself at all times, because those guys can be a little rowdy sometimes. And remember, if you drink, please do not drive, and always, say it with me, Danny, bear down! Bear down!
Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks. Yeah, your lovers and a bitch for my heart to eclipse now. Might be over now, but